My guest today is Norman Leslie. Norman is a financial advisor who has built his practice on a foundation of providing objective, honest, and precise strategies. He joins the show this week to share his personal journey and his professional path to this industry. Norman will definitely not disappoint you. I'm Paul Blanco, and this is Small Steps, Big Wins. All right. Well, Norman Leslie, welcome to Small Steps, Big Wins. I am so excited to have you on the show today. And, you guys all heard Norman's bio, but one thing that I did not say in the bio is, I've been in the business now leading Barnum for over 30 years. And Norman holds the title as my first hire into the business. And I'm super proud of it. And, it's very, exciting when you do that, but also very nerve-wracking when you want your first hire to be here. I would hate to say today, here's my second hire, because then they're going to say, where's the first one? So you did such a great job, Norman, and you're at the top of your game right now. And I know you're just getting started, but let's just kind of dig in today. Are you ready to go?
Yes, Paul. Thanks for having me. And it certainly has been a great 30 years.
Yeah.
And I just want to tell you, thanks for taking a chance with me.
Well, my pleasure.
You have made a significant difference in my life.
Well, thank you. And I'm looking forward to you sharing all the stuff you've done in your career with everybody here. So, well, Norman, let's start from the beginning. When I met you, you had just came to the United States very recently from then.
Yes.
And, you were ahead of the curve. You had received your Series 7. You were going into this industry. Mm-hmm. And we met through a referral. And tell me why you got here and why you were coming into the financial service industry.
That's a very interesting question. I've always known that I wanted to do something, not necessarily in the financial services industry, but either economics or accounting, something to do with that. Because the financial services industry as we know it in the United States is not as it is in Jamaica. So when I came here, I, as you said, got my Series 7. I started working at a small boutique firm in Stamford. And it was a real challenge doing 100% telephone solicitation, trying to sell the firm first, then the penny stocks that we were marketing at the time. So after trying that for 8 months and being on the phone for 5 hours each day, making 300 calls, I said, that's it. I am going to look for a firm that is a household name. And the referral you mentioned, that was Errol Newell, and he told me about Barnum, and the rest is history.
Oh, that's amazing. And I felt very fortunate to get you early in my career, but you got here and you truly hit the ground running. And the one thing that I noticed very, very quickly is you had this discipline to make the calls, to go after people in the market that you chose, but also to get referrals, which was very different. A lot of advisors didn't do that. So tell me what you were thinking when you got here. And now you not only had the investment side of the business, but then you started to focus on the insurance business. And tell me how you made that transition.
The gentleman who told me about Barnum, he had already sold financial products to the 8 or 10 people that I knew. So there was absolutely no way to be successful in this business except the way of referral. So I had to do that. That was no choice. But it was an older gentleman, Frank Giannini. Earlier in the career, there are some guys who took me under their wings. And Frank said to me, Norm, the only place you'll find success before work is in the dictionary. And
I never heard that one before.
Yes. And then I read something else that said, success is the natural consequence of consistently applying basic fundamentals. So I decided that, hey, if you want to be successful, which is appropriately titled Small Steps, Big Win, that's exactly what I had to do. I had to put in the effort every day without failure. And 30 years after, I am here.
It's amazing. So let's talk about that, though. Think back for a minute, and we'll get into present day later on. But if you think back, were there some challenges and obstacles you hit early career that you had to fight through to make, mentally to continue on the journey?
There were many challenges. To begin with, we had to call from the phone book. And we had what we called the one card system back in the days.
Yes.
And you'd have to make like 10 calls to connect with one person or two. It was a real challenge. And oftentimes you book the appointment. That was before cell phone as you know it now. You'd book the appointment, either they would call to cancel or they would not cancel. You show up after driving 30 minutes, 40 minutes to the house and they were not there. So you just had to be disciplined. And as you always say, Paul, as my boss at the time and now, you always say, Norman, it's a numbers game. Yep. Every time you get a no, you're one step closer to the next yes. So you just kept on going, kept on grinding.
But talk about the mental part of that. So you show up at someone's home. Let's say it was 30 minutes away.
Mm-hmm.
They're not there. You're maybe not having a great week, maybe questioning your journey. How did you get past that?
As I said again, by having conversation with other representatives that were in the business 10, 15, 20 years ahead of me. If others have done it, you can do it as well.
Yeah.
And they've shared with me that they have had similar stories and they were using the rate card book many years. And to me, that was just unfathomable. So I'm saying if they did it, having to work with that system, my system is no more advanced. Yes, there are going to be challenges, but you have to stay the course.
Well, it's interesting you said that. I'm laughing to myself because I only came in the business 3 years before you.
Yes.
But my first month, I learned how to use a rate book. And then literally we got computerized illustrations like a month after I started. So you almost were on the rate card stuff then. Well, I love that. And I think that too many advisors come in the industry
mm-hmm.
and you want to emulate people that are successful. You want to understand how they got there. And I always teach that one of the things that you need to learn in this industry or in life as an entrepreneur is to be super curious. So you didn't even realize how curious you were because you were asking all these questions of the veterans. So many of the people that are listening in today that are advisors that are at different points of their career, go to people that have ahead of you in the journey, like Norman did.
Mm-hmm.
And that's very helpful because they could help you understand, especially if it's in the same industry, what it took to get there. Another thing is I use, as you know, Norman, a lot of dadisms. And my dad, to sum up what you said, he always told me, he said, listen, everyone puts their pants on the same way you do, one leg at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So if they can do it, why not you? So I appreciate that. What you just said. So I think that there's a point in everyone's career. I call it where it clicks. Some people say it's a turning point, but was there a point where you woke up one day and you were like, this is it. I'll do this for the rest of my life. Was there something that happened that it clicked and you just said, I'm off to the races?
I would say there was a point. And you'll be pleased to know that you played a part in that.
Oh, wow.
If you recall, some many years ago, as a result of Barnum being the number one firm for MetLife for many years consecutively, they wanted to have an African-American advisor council. By virtue of the firm, they asked you for a representative and you sponsored me. I would say sponsored. And it was about 15 of us. When I got to these meetings, whether it's Chicago, California, wherever, Dallas, and I surveyed the room, I realized that one, I was the youngest of all the members on that board. And two, I was the least qualified being on that board. And I decided then that I need to go back to get some designations. And that is when I went back to the American College, when partnered with them, and I pursued the CASL and the Chartered Advisor for ChFC designations. And it's amazing that some of those individuals that were in the room that were senior to me and more experienced, today, I am their resource. So it was after getting my designation, there was a transition from transactional business to a more consultative type approach to the business. And I realized the need that exists in this industry.
So I want to make sure we hit this one because I think this is an important one. And I talk about getting designations because one, it takes the silent objection away from clients, right? Because they're reading in Money Magazine or Kiplinger's or the Wall Street Journal, you should get someone that has a designation. But you also learn a ton through that. So was it the learning that helped you? Was it the designation at the end of your name that gave you confidence? What was it to you? Or was it a combination of everything?
It was a combination of everything. Yes, the designation in and of itself removes some of those silent objections, but the content that you've acquired as a result of doing the coursework, when you're speaking, you realize that, wow, it's like the light bulb went off. You can address certain issues. It's more consultative. When you talk to a person and you're trying to design a program for them, you can look at what they're trying to accomplish. And because of the body of knowledge that you've acquired, you can help them to mitigate those risks that stand between them and achieving their multiple financial objectives. And at the end of not just the meeting itself, but maybe after they have become a client, after 3, 4, 5 years, having seen individuals retired, having assisted couples in sending their children to school, and they extend a hand to you and say, Norman, thank you. What would I have done had I not met you? Those are some of the things that really made a difference in my career. And I was talking to someone recently, let me take a side note, and they said, why is it that you continue to do this business after 30 years, actually? I said, when I started this business, I came into this business primarily for an opportunity. But having been in this career now for 30 years, opportunities still abound. But to me now, it's more of a responsibility that I have. Because oftentimes I hear individuals say, Norm, why did I not meet you 30 years ago? If I had met you 30 years ago, my life would have been different. So that's the responsibility that I have now to the investing public, to make a real difference in the life of individuals. And as I said, thanks again for the opportunity.
No, you got it. Once you hit where you are, where you get that and it's about your legacy, it's a game changer.
It is.
So let's unbundle what you just said a minute ago, though. You came in the business truly. So it's interesting. You started on the investment side. You came here, and at that time, we were truly in the insurance business. And then what you just talked about on your learning is your journey today is really more holistic in planning. There was a lot of stuff in the media in the last month that talked about how the industry, by and large, being a hybrid, doing both sides of the balance sheet is the crown jewel of the industry. And unfortunately, that's not happening everywhere. So you made a paradigm shift on both sides, right? You started here, then you went on the protection side. And when I fast forward, maybe 6, 7, 8 years into your career, in the last 25 years, let's just say, you've really been a holistic advisor with protection at the core. Talk about that and why you did that and what it means for your clients.
I did that, one, because, again, Frank Giannini, he said, the situation is the boss. When I see a client, somebody else said, if you're a planner or an advisor and you walk with only a hammer, everything looks like a nail, right?
Yes.
So really you have to be open-minded. And the transition came about for many reasons. One, I got married 30 years ago to start having children. So I realized that myself, I need multiple financial objectives to hit. I was working with young families that were trying to get their kids to college, retirement, some of them taking care of older parents. So there are multiple needs. So you just cannot go in focusing on one thing. As you know, you've introduced it to us. We use the fact find, where you go in and you uncover all the need, leaving no stone unturned. And from that, it directs you to where you should go. So that was one in terms of getting that information. But secondly, if you are a true planner, you'll realize that setting up your business in that way, it's the best way to ensure longevity in this business as well.
Well, and I think if I could just be on video, you'd see this long line that I'd lay out as a timeline of a client's life, like you just said, from being single to getting married to having children to retirement to kids getting married. And you think about all the products that play into that and all the referrals you can get. So the life of a client is so valuable. So you put two really amazing points just back to back. One is a life of learning, and the other one is the longevity that you have, but what the life of a client means to you as an FA. So, your practice is totally different than it was, from those days of making 300 calls, right?
It certainly is.
And you're a holistic planner. You've grown, you have a huge clientele. How has your mindset shifted today? Go like right to now, 30 years later, other than you talked about the legacy. So you got that, you've arrived, because now you never ever want to peak, but you arrive mentally to know that this is your calling. And it's not just about being successful for you. It's about being successful for clients. But how has your mindset shifted?
My mindset shifted. There are a number of things. One particular thing, if I may even say this to you right now, being a part of the Plan Smart program that we have here, there is a tremendous gap between different ethnic group and what they have accomplished financially. And if you were to look at this industry, there are not many African Americans in this industry. And right now, like for the month of February, Black History Month, I may have taught this particular workshop maybe 20 times. The workshop is called Closing the Gap, Building Wealth in the Black Community. And just when we do offer these workshops, there's a complimentary consultation to individuals who attend. And oftentimes when I meet with some of the individuals in that constituents, some are doing well, but you have others who have been employed for 20, 30 years, and they're leaving employers money on the table by not participating in the 401k. So now, as I said earlier, I do have a responsibility, and I'm trying. My next step is to maybe help to grow Barnum by employing more African Americans so that they can reach that constituency and really do make a difference.
And I think that's the next legacy for you, is to impact and build a team around you that can help those communities to grow. It's interesting. You got to do what I did to you. I forced you to sign up for your 401k.
I remember that story well. I have told that story many times.
You were leaving the money on the table too. And
I certainly was.
I'm taking you to your computer. You're going to do it right now in front of me.
I remember that. And that was one of the best decisions I've made.
What's your day-to-day like today? So like February, you taught 20 workshops at major institutions, but what's a normal day look like? What's a normal month look like today?
A normal month for me is kind of similar month by month, but somewhat different. I direct my life to a large extent, and then the other part of my life is directed by my calendar. Generally, there's a mix between client meetings, like annual reviews, new clients, teaching, And obviously I block some time out for rest, relaxation, and for reading, and also to spend time with family.
Nice.
Because that's critically important.
So you say pretty balanced now.
Yes, yes. I'm pretty balanced. Thankfully, I am able to do that now because I put the work in at the beginning.
So when you think about what you said, you started out face-to-face. You started out on the phone.
Mm-hmm.
Then you said, I really wanted to switch because I wanted to be meeting people face-to-face. In 2020, we had COVID hit, which so much bad happened from that. But in our industry, it's changed the dynamics for a lot of advisors where maybe 10 or 15% of our meetings pre-COVID were on Zoom or something like Zoom. How has that impacted you today?
Like most individuals in this business and many others, when COVID hit, I was really worried. I thought, wow, this is the end of business as we know it. And it really was. But unfortunately, as bad as COVID was, it has caused increased efficiency in my business. I remember teaching, as I said, some of these workshops. I would be going to South Manhattan. And if I take the train or if I drove, sometime it would be 2.5 hours one way. So it could be 5 hours of traveling. Now I come to my office, which is 15 minutes from home. I do 1 hour of teaching there. So I just got an extra 4 hours of time. And I'm doing a lot of meetings. Now I can do 6 meetings for the day sometimes over Zoom or Teams. That was impossible prior to COVID. So as I said again, unfortunately, as bad as COVID was, that really caused increased efficiency in other aspects of the business.
Yeah, it's interesting too. And one of the things I've been teaching in my coaching to advisors is many, if you take this business down to the roots and just make it simple for a second, we talked about a lot of it this morning, is there's only 2 ways to grow. See people, see more, sell bigger, right? Well, if you think about it, most advisors were able to only see maybe 15 clients a week if they were coming into their office or they were going to see them or a combination. Now many advisors are able to see, like you said, 6, like 30 a week. Some advisors are coming to me now and saying, holy mackerel, I grew so much over the last 3 years and now I'm like kind of hit a wall. And I'm like, well, let's think about it. See more. You just went double over the last 3 years. So now when you think of 2024, you have to start employing different strategies because you're not going to get the double again, right? There's no way you're going to go from 6 to 12. So when you think of today and going forward, what are you doing differently now that you got that gift? What's next?
My next is really a 2-pronged approach. Okay. I said earlier, 1, I am seeking diligently to increase the the number of financial planners. So that's one aspect, which actually is going to include my son, because I believe in this, right?
I'm waiting for him to become an advisor.
It will be. And secondly, if I were to, when I employ them, it will free me up because some of them will have addressed some of the more, not menial, but some of the more routine aspect of my job and can free me up to attend to my clients in a more qualitative aspect.
Sure.
So that, because what I've realized in this business, oftentimes you meet a client, you think you have all their money. And then 2-3 years after you have proven yourself and they become comfortable with you, say, oh, Norman, by the way, and you're getting statements with monies from other institutions. So as you said, see more sell bigger. Yep. So the seeing more part is not possible at this time. So we can really sell bigger by trying to accumulate all the assets that our clients have. So
really, if you think about your 2 major strategies going forward are to, 1, grow the African-American market, not just by your reach, but by multiple people.
Yes.
And two, to really, truly, because you've done a lot of joint work and impacted a lot of advisors over the years, but to truly now bring your son in and start a real team.
Yes.
That's exciting. And is your goal to do that in 24?
Yes, 24, no later than 25.
And when you think about it, Norman, there's a stat in the industry that's a little daunting for me, where it says that when a client of yours passes away, because we're helping protect them and manage their money at the same time, 90% of them, the women, usually the men go first. That's the stat. And then the women move financial advisors. I think if you team properly and you go very deep in those client households where the children become your clients, I don't think that will happen. How do you feel about that?
I've experienced that working with second generations, and it's like a night and day relative to acquiring their parents as clients. Oftentimes when I'm talking with the children, by virtue of the fact that I was referred to them by their parents, sometimes I'm not sure if they pay attention to what I'm saying to them. They say, okay, let's do that. Whatever the recommendations are, they want to implement it. And I must say this too, that you know the story. Sadly, about 18 months ago, I lost my younger sister. So what I do here, I live it. I understand it. I thought I did prior to that. And, I would talk to my clients, yes. But as a result of my sister's passing, I speak now with a level or a degree of conviction that I didn't have before, because I understand it.
Well, it's interesting. And I think that's one of the missing pieces of our industry today, where there's so many people on the investment and income side that they forgot some of the emotional side of the protection piece of the business, because that whole plan goes sour if you don't have that other piece figured out.
Definitely.
Well, I appreciate that, Norman. And that's hard stuff to learn sometimes, Very
hard.
Well, as we wrap up here, I want to think about, you have so much wisdom. And if I was brand new in the industry today, what would some of the advice you would give them right now?
Some of the advice I would give them right now is, the first thing I would tell them is, one, to become a student of the business. You have to make each day a learning experience. You have to do that, one. Two, it's important for you to have good work ethics. Critically important. I'm going to be a little bit philosophical before I get into...
No, great.
As Napoleon Hill said in Think and Grow Rich, book that you caused us to read. He interviewed quite a number of individuals, but he said of the top individuals, the most successful individuals, there were 3 character traits between them. That was enthusiasm, definiteness of purpose, and concentration of effort. If you come into this business, you have to be sure about yourself. You have to know what you want and be focused on what you're doing. That's what I'll say about that. And then designations, critically important, because the business now is more complex than it was 20, 30 years ago.
Way more.
And you need that body of knowledge in order for you to successfully navigate this increasingly complex field of endeavor.
Well, and I want to make a point on that. Anyone that's coming new into this business, or anyone that's 2 years in already or 5 years in, you didn't do that. Just commit to once a quarter.
Mm-hmm.
You don't have to get your designation tomorrow. But if you do 10 straight quarters, you'll have 3 designations. And you'll have so much knowledge and more confidence, as we talked about earlier in the show.
But that's a strategy I use, thanks to you.
Yeah, thank you. And I think it's small steps, big wins.
Absolutely.
Last question. If you're a veteran producer, 30 years, what would you tell them?
These young kids coming into the business?
No, you. Mm-hmm. If you were talking to all the producers that are 30 years in the business or more, what advice would you give them? Like, you're doing some real things now, right? Trying to impact a whole community, bringing in someone on your team and your son to help continue your legacy for you and your clients. You switched to Zoom versus face-to-face. You've changed a lot of things. What would you give advice to them now?
I would give them the very same advice I'd give to myself. One, I'll tell them that, hey, 30 years in the business, you're now a statement. You have responsibility to not just to the individuals here, but to the career and to the investing public. Two, when I went to school almost 31 years ago now, Build Your Business School, there's a gentleman there. He said to all of us, never think that you arrive, because when you ripe, you rot. But when you green, you grow. So even after 30 years in the business, stay green, continue to have the passion for learning, and keep your foot on that accelerator and just keep learning. And the final thing I would say to a 30-year producer in this business is that we should keep current, stay current, because you miss a day, you miss a week, you miss a month, you miss a year, then you lose that competitive advantage and you become a dinosaur.
Well, I like that. If you think about athletes, I call us corporate athletes, but if you think about athletes, there's a point where they lose a step. They can't throw the ball as far. Their body breaks down and they realize it's time to go. As a corporate executive, that happens when you don't keep learning. So thank you for sharing that. And listen, Norman, small steps, big win. You emulate that on a day-to-day basis for 30 straight years. Super proud of you. It's amazing, great honor for me to have you on today and to see the journey. And I know I always say this, but you're really just getting started. I can't wait to have you back on the show and see what you do over the next 30. So congratulations and thanks again.
Thank you. And it was a pleasure to be here.
Well, we appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Small Steps, Big Wins. Please rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you listen to your podcasts.
All opinions expressed by the program participants are solely their current opinions and do not reflect the opinions their respective parent companies or affiliates or the companies with which the program participants are affiliated. Investments or strategies mentioned in this program may not be suitable for you, and you should make your own independent decision regarding them. This material does not take into account your particular investment objectives, financial situation, or needs, and is not intended as recommendations appropriate for you. You should strongly consider seeking advice from your own investment advisor. Securities and investment advisory services offered through qualified registered representatives of MML Investor Services, LLC. Member SIPC, 6 Corporate Drive, Shelton, Connecticut, 06484, telephone number 203-513-6000.